And a very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be a little bit formal this morning. And thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. I'm he. Today happens to be, welcome to the month of June. Today happens to be the second day of June, 2019. And we're looking forward to really good 3 hours coming up, and I hope you're going to be able to join us. If not for all of it, then at least for most of it. And in the event that you don't get to watch the whole thing during the next 3 hours, just remember, shortly after we wrap it up, it will be available to you on Facebook, and a little later on this afternoon, we're also going to stick it up there on YouTube, okay? And at the same time she goes up on YouTube, it will also be on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website, so you can take a look at your leisure. Now, folks, got some good stuff for you. Hey, there they are. Dennis Clark is saying, keep up the good work, sir. Good morning to you. Not Dennis Clark, Dennis Charles, I beg your pardon. Good morning, Dennis. So nice to see you. It's been a little while since last we talked. Certainly hope you still have plans in train to pay us a visit very shortly. I think you said you'd be down here before Carnival. Looking forward to seeing you and meeting you face to face. Bernard Gilbert saying, good morning. And Margaret's also saying good morning to all. Oswin Lewis is doing likewise, and so is Dennis Charles. Hey, well, we said good morning to Dennis already. So, folks, let's take a look and see what's cooking for the next 3 hours. Of course, we begin with a reading from the Holy Scriptures. That's when we get into today's edition of The Buzz. And I have to tell you right off the bat, we do not have a contribution this morning from our dear friend, Little Angel. Little Angel has been kept pretty hectic, and she was not able to submit something to us last night, and she's apologized for that. We're going to miss you, Little Angel. Then, 2 editorials for you this morning. The first one from the Grenada Advocate. And that one is captioned, Parents Play an Important Role. No kidding. I didn't know that. Of course they do. You'll have to wait just a few minutes to find out what that's all about. And then, I like this title. The new today is captioned, Tit-for-tat. Tit-for-tat. Yeah. So, there you have it. That's as far as our editorials are concerned. Then, we get into our interviews. And we do have a couple for you. First one is all about the inaugural GTC Classic Lighting Bicycle Relays. GTC is the Grenada Trade Center. I understand that the sponsor of this thing is a company called Classic Lighting, and they're having their bicycle relays, first ever, coming up very shortly. And we do have a couple of their event organizers who are going to be joining us. One gentleman is named Glenn Alexander, and the other, Keith Patrick. Expect to have them sitting in these chairs right next to me in just a wee bit. They should be here at about 9:45 or so. Second interview. Yeah. We had this young man on here several weeks ago, actually sometime last year. A gentleman by the name of Corie Bain. He was the recipient of a scholarship from the PETNA Foundation. Well, Mr. Bain has just graduated from MCMASTER University out there in Ontario, Canada. And he's going to be chatting with us by Zoom this morning. Find out what his studies were like and, you know, what his plans are, et cetera, et cetera. All right? So Corie Bain's going to be talking with us, I would imagine, Hey, maybe about 10:15 or so this morning. Those are our two interviews per se. And then I do have a couple of short pieces that I really want to throw in this morning. The first one is about derelict boats on display in pure Grenada. I'm sure you remembered all the brouhaha about the boats, old boats just sitting there rotting along Lagoon Road. Well, we heard talk about that being cleaned up. If it was, they're back. I went down, took some video, I think it was on Friday afternoon. Sad, but I have to show you. I just have to show you that we continue yada, 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 yada. Pure Grenada, at her best. Then, I'm going to put a smile on your face this morning. Bishop of St. George goes extempore. Yes! Bishop Clyde Harvey, I beg your pardon. Bishop Clyde Harvey has done a little promotional piece to promote the upcoming celebration of Pentecost. And, oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. So hang on just a wee bit, all right? And those two are our first feature, those two little pieces. And then explaining the CCJ's dismissal of 2 Grenadian cases. One of our attorneys here, a gentleman by the name of Ruggles Ferguson, he does the Monday program, Law Made Simple. Ruggles actually took 2 cases to the CCJ, and unfortunately lost both of them. And I have asked him to come in here this morning to explain them both. One had to do with a family who got harassed in Barbados, and the other one had to do with a Grenadian who tried to enter Trinidad and Tobago and got turned away. The first one, the second one, some questions. So I've asked them to come in here this morning and try and explain the outcomes of both of those cases to us, okay? So that's going to be our second feature. Let's get back here now to, hang on, let's get back here to Facebook. We said good morning to Dennis. Hello, Sharon. No cricket today, Sharon? Sharon's out there in England for World Cup cricket, and she says, good day, Gigi and family, from a cool, drizzly Nottingham in England. Anthea, so good to see you, girl. She's out there in Decatur in Georgia. John is not in Carriacou this morning. I did expect, I knew that he was going away. He went away a couple of days ago. I knew that John was going, but somehow I didn't expect that he'd be chiming in this early. Well, here he is this morning. Says, good morning to the world from at Clever, Cornwall, in the UK. Good to see you, John. Are you going to try and take in some of that cricket? Maybe get to meet Sharon and Winty? Yeah, man, that'd be nice. Hello, Penny. Hello, Penny. Hello, Penny. A long time no talk, girl. Hope to touch base with you very, very soon. Dennis Perkins, also in the UK this morning, says it's a lovely warm day here in London. Christine and Dennis Perkins, well, good to see you guys. Anthony says, good morning, George and everyone. Folks, please remember to prepare for the hurricane season, which officially began yesterday. Absolutely, Anthony. Very little talk this year about the hurricane season, very little talk, but just you wait until some big blob starts coming across the Atlantic and then everybody goes berserk. You know what it's like. By the way, Anthony, Just a few minutes ago before I got started here, I sat and I listened to one of your recent pieces. I'm going to try and share that one tomorrow morning with our listeners. It's called Me Grenadian. Yeah. Anthony is at it again. Anthony is at it again. You haven't forgotten your boyhood days, have you? Well, good for you, because it's nice to keep reminding us of those good old days. You'll hear some terms used, folks, that you haven't for a long, long time. Manel Toussaint Green is saying good morning from Windsor, Ontario. Hello there in Western Ontario. Not too far from London, Ontario. Good to see you, Manel. Arthur Langine is watching from New York. Howdy, Arthur. And John is saying good morning again, Gigi. I heard you the first time. He says St. Clair, Cornwall. St. Clair, okay. C-L-E-E-R, Cornwall. Lincoln, where have you been, Lincoln? Long time no see, man. But it's good to hear you. Hope you're doing okay. Time to come home, pay us a visit, young man. Benedict Cador is also saying good morning. And Lydia James is wishing everybody a happy Sunday. Who else? Ernesto, hello. Ernesto says, there you go, Principal Gigi. Good morning to you and Pilgrims. Education Sunday is on. A program with a difference. Hey, nice to see you, Ernesto. Thank you very much for joining us. Take our first little break and we'll come on back.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Boy, yo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say, kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, it can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GrenadaBroadcast. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GrenadaBroadcast, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
All righty. Yes, folks. We have now been joined by Tessa Barry. Tessa, I think it's fair now to label you. In all fairness, we have labeled Peter Bishop, the traveling salesman, and judging from what I see on Facebook, you've been getting around quite a bit as well. Last I saw, I think you were somewhere in England, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong, but I think it was England. Did you get to see Her Majesty? Anyhow, she's saying good morning. Good to see you, girl. Okay, folks. Now, let's get into this week's edition of The Buzz, and we begin, as always, with a reading from the Holy Scriptures. So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered to you in your ear, proclaim from the rooftops. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. That little reading came to you from the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 10, verses 26 to 31. All right? All right. As I mentioned a little while ago, we do not have a contribution this morning from Little Angel. So that's going to take care of this week's edition of The Buzz. Back here now. Charles Norma says, good morning, Brother George. Your humble servant is here listening. Hello, humble servant. Not you're like me. Nice to see you. And she says, to all my listening friends, a good day. So nice of you, Norma Charles, or Charles Norma. Okay, folks, talking about the hurricane season. Let's take a little break here with some advice from the folks at GRENADA. And then we're going to come back and get started. It's now, let's see here, 18 minutes after the hour. We'll come back and take a look at the 2 editorials from the Grenada Advocate and the New Today.
A natural disaster can change your life in minutes. Preparation is the best protection for your family and business. Prepare now. Create a disaster plan and make sure everyone knows what to do. Store water, non-perishable food, and medication. Remember basic emergency supplies such as batteries and flashlights. Trim overhanging trees. If trees near power lines are unsafe to trim, call GRENADA at 237 for assistance or advice. Install surge protectors to safeguard your electrical devices against outages and intermittent surges. For more information, visit GrenadaBroadcast.com.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Fudge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the mature tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices. I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fare with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the salespersons there if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me to bring 20 packets to start with It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
Well, folks, he's a little bit late this morning, but nevertheless, he is here. Peter Bishop, very good morning to you. And Glenn, Andrew, Mark, also chiming in. Good to see you guys, folks. Let's get started with the first of our two editorials this morning. The Grenada Advocate is captioned, "Parents play an important role." June 1st, the Global Day of Parents was celebrated around the world as one of the United Nations' internationally observed days. At that time, people got the opportunity to appreciate all parents in all parts of the world for their selfless commitment to children and their lifelong sacrifice towards nurturing this relationship. Parents are committed to their roles 24/7. Conversely, for children, the time for showing their affection is usually reserved for special occasions like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, birthdays, or even Christmas. It is hoped that on June 1st, parents were acknowledged for the simple fact that most people, particularly children, do not know about the day's significance. Nevertheless, for those who are aware, the expectation is that parents continue to provide a nurturing, protected environment for their children in which they can develop into thoughtful, loving, compassionate, resourceful, and beneficial members of society in the future. Yet, in so doing, it is also crucial that parents acknowledge their own efforts in that essential role. Mothers of young children often receive the common advice to take care of yourself first, so that you are then able to take care of someone else. In essence, this means that if you keep giving of yourself without replenishing, then eventually you will be drained with nothing to give. No one wants this for their child. Hence, on Global Day of Parents, take a moment. We hope you took a moment to acknowledge your efforts as parents as a method of self-gratification and self-motivation to continue in a similar or better vein. In considering any improvements to present practices, think on the relationship that you, as parents, have between yourselves. Animosity, distrust, disrespect, and other negative attitudes, no matter if you attempt to conceal them, will be detected by sensitive children, and these will impact their lives. Therefore, resolve your issues promptly and do not let negativity fester within a family. Children deserve to be raised within the care of a mother figure as well as a father figure. There are scenarios that males will have different perspectives on, and advice that they can give that a female will not, simply because she has not lived from that perspective. Likewise, men will not be able to advise on certain situations like a woman would. However, situations may not always be ideal, and a mother and father may not live together as a family, as mentioned above, but may be separated Regardless, compromise is necessary to ensure a stable, fulfilling atmosphere is created for the child. Shared custody is one such way, or simply ensuring that a positive male role model is available through social circles. In all of this, parents should remember that they are not in this alone. Support is often available through extended family, and there are also several groups like UNICEF or church groups that offer counseling services or parental training. It is often said that being a parent is the most difficult job in the world, but it is the most rewarding and the most important one in the world as well. For not only are you raising younger versions of yourselves, you are also shaping brand new citizens of the world who will be integral to the future of this planet as we know it. That, Pilgrims, was the editorial which appeared in Wednesday's edition of the Grenada Advocate. All right? Now, Yvonne Joseph has joined us. Hello there, Yvonne. Good to see you. Good morning. And Kipling sending God's blessings. Ernesto says, cricket update. Bangladesh, 330 runs for 6 wickets and 50 overs. South Africa, yet to bat. Oh, thank you, Mr. Scorecard Keeper. Yeah. Good to see you guys. Okie doke. Break time, and we'll come back.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Mouth Open Story Jump Out comes to Brooklyn and Washington, D.C., featuring the humor and storytelling of Ricardo Kings Douglas.
They say she comes all the way up here to Toronto to shop for cosmetics and go back down.
Roll back the years in Brooklyn with Lord Nelson. Also in the Brooklyn concert, Quick USA. And in Washington, Diane and Friends and Julian Moore. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th. In Brooklyn at the Tropical Reflection Ballroom on 4501 Glenwood Road from 6 p.m. It's the perfect Father's Day treat. Tickets, $30 in advance. Available at Eventbrite and popular outlets. Or call 347-350-4285 in Brooklyn and 240-460-0442 in Washington, D.C., Maryland. In Brooklyn, special guest, the Mighty Sparrow, will be joined by cultural ambassadors and preservationists to be recognized with New York State proclamations. They include Lord Nelson, Derek Vento, Heron Rockin' J. Douglas, Gentle Benjamin, Lambert, and the Matadors, and the Quick USA Cultural Organization. Additionally, 2 lucky patrons will get to stay free at the award-winning Blue Horizons Garden Resort in Grenada for 3 nights, including breakfast and a dinner at La Belle Creole Restaurant, sponsored by Tropical Reflection Ballroom, Blue Horizon Gardens Resort, the Pelly Firm, Caribbean Times Newspaper, Dr. Derek Lezama, Century 21 Achievers Realty, Attorney Glenroy George, the Otley Law Firm, and Funk Media NYC. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Brooklyn, Father's Day. Mouth Open, Story Jump Out.
Alrighty, folks. Hey. Coming up on 9:30 on a Sunday morning. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just a reminder that I'm sure that many of you over the past week have been very much aware that Grenada took 2 cases to the CCJ in recent times, and we lost both of them. Well, the attorney who handled both of those cases, Mr. Ruggles Ferguson, is coming in here this morning, and he's going to spend some time trying to explain to us what really happened. I know a lot of people out there, have you seen social media? everybody has an opinion of what happened. And maybe, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but Ruggles is. And I'm sure that you're going to have some questions for him. And as always, I'm sure he's going to be ready and willing to answer and provide explanations to the best of his ability. So again, I ask you, do not jump to conclusions too quickly, all right? Wait and hear what the man has to say. And by the way, on Monday, this past Monday, when he came in here to do this past week's edition of Law Made Simple, he spent the entire hour addressing the outcome of the second case, which was the one where the Grenadian was denied entry into Trinidad, okay? So, Ruggles should be in here at about 11 o'clock this morning. Now, 9:39, let us get to Friday's editorial from the New Today, which is captioned Tit-for-tat. Grenada and the rest of the Caribbean should take careful note of the Cold War that has virtually started between the United States and China on the Huawei Technologies Company issue. The Donald Trump administration in Washington has widened its dragnet on Chinese companies, barred from selling to the United States or buying components from American firms in a push to slow China's technological advances through Huawei. The hawkish policymakers in the United States would be taking careful note of those regional governments who have been developing strong political ties with Beijing to attract developmental aid for the advancement of their people. It's the new Cold War taking place in the region, much different from the bruising battles that took place in the 1970s and 1980s with the left-wing revolution by Grenada, Cuba, Nicaragua, and to a lesser extent, Jamaica, which pursued policies that were an affront to Washington's global hello. Yeah, they're at work. Okay. Let me read that last sentence again. It's a new Cold War taking place in the region, much different from the bruising battles that took place in the 1970s and 1980s with left-wing revolution by Grenada, Cuba, Nicaragua, and to a lesser extent, Jamaica, which pursued policies that were an affront to Washington's global interest. As one political analyst stated recently, the Chinese are the only one with a pepper sauce in the world, and their assistance around the world is rivaling that of the United States. Washington's interest is no longer focused on the Caribbean, as it has become preoccupied with much larger issues around the world, especially in the fight against world terrorism. However, this should not be construed to conclude that the United States is not wary of the growing influence of China in what it considers as its own backyard. Unfortunately, the Americans have been giving drips of aid to regional states as compared to the goodies that are now coming from the Chinese. Take, for instance, the situation last week in which the United States gave 2 satellite phones to Grenada for use during the hurricane season. This is nothing but a drop in the ocean compared to the fleet of vehicles given by the Chinese for use by the Royal Grenada Police Force and other agencies. China has also been making available to Grenada and some of the regional states with which it enjoys diplomatic relations several scholarships and help in other areas like low-cost housing and agricultural development, unlike the United States. Our leaders understand the need to deliver to their people, to face the electorate every 5 years in the electoral cycle. The Chinese will never admit publicly that its agents are known to provide large amounts of cash to those politicians with whom it is comfortable doing business in the region. Taiwan is no longer in a position to financially match the goodies from the Chinese, who are now awash with money from their economic and financial models, which are being pursued by a younger generation of leaders who are prepared to watch the Americans straight in the eye on the global level. The Chinese will not sit idly by and allow the United States to cripple Huawei Technologies, China's biggest telecommunications company, in its thrust to become a major player in 5G technology. The punitive measures already taken by the United States will be met by retaliation by the Chinese, and this technological Cold War between the two world powers will continue to rattle markets around the world. Analysts have concluded that the 5G is what Washington is most fearful about, as this is the technology that will be powering upcoming technologies, from self-driving cars to advanced medical procedures, and the new wireless standard that is set to become the backbone of any modern economy. Prior to President Trump's action, Huawei, which is a major player in communications networking and the second largest smartphone maker, was leading in supplying that infrastructure around the world. The United States is now desperately trying to slow down the Chinese tech company in the expansion of 5G. It is a known fact that many people do not trust China, out of fears that Huawei might allow the government in Beijing to use the platform to engage in espionage activities. And many experts agree that Chinese tech companies still remain well behind their U.S. counterparts in some key industries. The crackdown on Huawei and other tech companies by the Trump administration in Washington should not be taken lightly by those Caribbean states that have been forging new relations with Beijing in the face of this new U.S.-China trade war. China has threatened to retaliate against the attack on its leading tech company by the United States. As its envoy to the European Union, Zhang Ming, said in Brussels, and I quote, "This is wrong behavior, so there will be a necessary response," unquote. The Caribbean should be mindful to steer clear of this tit-for-tat between Washington and Beijing in the new Cold War, as eggs have no right in Rockstone dance. Yep. There you have it. That's the editorial which appeared in Friday's edition of the New Today. Let me get back here to social media. Lydia says, it was a damn good thing Grenadians didn't vote for the CCJ. Hey, Lydia, let's hear what Ruggles has to say this morning. I've heard all kinds of speculation out there. Robert Stonebank says, George, check your feed online. Can't hear anything, and it keeps dropping on Facebook. Well, my dear sir, welcome to the club. I'm having a hell of a bang-up time here this morning as well. And, sir, we still have not been able to put our fingers on it. You ask the pilgrims who are here on a daily basis, Monday through Friday with us, they'll tell you we've been having this hassle for at least the last couple of weeks. Still haven't been able to put their finger on it. What I can tell you, though, is that every time my Facebook feed drops off here, I simply refresh and it comes back up. There's some people who claim they're people living in New York, for example. Some of them can see it on their iPhone. Some cannot see it on their Androids. Huh? I'm here in Grenada. Sometimes I sit here watching it perfectly on my iPhone. John and Corie can't watch it. He has to abandon. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I've had my internet provider look into it. I have had 2 techies look into it, and we have not been able to come up with a solution. So please, just keep refreshing every time it drops. I know it's a pain in the butt, but once the program is through at midday, you should be able to just go to the Facebook page and watch it. And later on, you'll also be able to watch it on YouTube. Sharon says, I'm having the same problem with the feed dropping. Yes, Sharon, well, you know, you tell them, girl. Kipling says, soon we will understand why China is doing so much for us. Just a matter of time. There's nothing free. Someone has to pay for it. Arthur Langine's also having the same problems. Benedict Cador says, like America doesn't use technology to monitor and spy too. Interesting, interesting point, Benedict, interesting point. And Chester, hello, Chester. He says, greetings from a sunny Sunday in Zurich, Switzerland. I'm assuming that your feed, you know, this is another great thing. I know that up until recently, Chester was having a beautiful feed out there in Zurich, all the way across the Atlantic, and people on this side of the Atlantic were catching their nenen to watch the program. Anyhow, okay, pilgrims, let's take another little break here, and then we will come on back.
Boyo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, Kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, it can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GrenadaBroadcast. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Fudge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the mature tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices. I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fare with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the salespersons there if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me to bring 20 packets to start with. It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James, and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
A natural disaster can change your life in minutes. Preparation is the best protection for your family and business. Prepare now. Create a disaster plan and make sure everyone knows what to do. Store water, non-perishable food, and medication. Remember basic emergency supplies such as batteries and flashlights. Trim overhanging trees. If trees near power lines are unsafe to trim, call GrenLec at 237 for assistance or advice. Install surge protectors to safeguard your electrical devices against outages and intermittent surges. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
GrenLec, energizing our Grenada.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Mouth Open Story Jump Out comes to Brooklyn and Washington, D.C., featuring the humor and storytelling of Ricardo Kings Douglas.
They say she comes all the way up here to Toronto to shop for cosmetics and go back down.
Roll back the years in Brooklyn with Lord Nelson. Also in the Brooklyn concert, Quick USA. And in Washington, Diane and Friends and Julian Moore. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th. In Brooklyn at the Tropical Reflection Ballroom on 4501 Glenwood Road from 6 p.m. It's the perfect Father's Day treat. Tickets, $30 in advance. Available at Eventbrite and popular outlets. Or call 347-350-4285 in Brooklyn and 240-460-0442 in Washington, D.C., Maryland. Brooklyn. Special guest, the Mighty Sparrow, will be joined by cultural ambassadors and preservationists to be recognized with New York State proclamations. They include Lord Nelson, Derek Vento, Heron Rockin' J. Douglas, Gentle Benjamin, Lambert, and the Matadors, and the Quake USA Cultural Organization. Additionally, 2 lucky patrons will get to stay free at the award-winning Blue Horizons Garden Resort in Grenada for 3 nights, including breakfast and a dinner at La Belle Creole Restaurant, sponsored by Tropical Reflection Ballroom, Blue Horizon Gardens Resort, The Penny Firm, Caribbean Times Newspaper, Dr. Derek Lezama, Century 21 Achievers Realty, Attorney Glenroy George, The Otley Law Firm, and Funk Media NYC. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Brooklyn, Father's Day. Mouth Open, Story Jump Out.
Here we are. We're back. Folks, it's now, let's see here, 10 minutes away from the hour. And, yeah, we were expecting to have a couple of guests in here this morning at 9:45, eh? Yeah, well, let's see here. They were, let's see, Glenn Alexander and Keith Patrick, who are two of the event organizers who are organizing the inaugural GTC Classic Lighting Bicycle Relays. They were going to be here at 9:45. Take a look. Day-do-day. Not even a ringy-dingy. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a bit of a blank. Now, what that means is that I'm going to move right into some of the stuff that I had promised to share with you this morning. The first one is about the lagoon derelicts. A couple of years ago, you heard the brouhaha about the derelict boats which were littering the shoreline of the Corie James Boulevard. You know where I'm talking about? I'm talking about like from Foodland all the way around to Tropicana, all right? Many of them had been there for years, despite many calls to clean up that particular environment. After a lot of yada, 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 and a lot of threats, at least some of the boats were removed. But while riding along the Lagoon Road on Thursday, I noticed once again that the unsightly display is back. Once again. So on Friday afternoon, grabbed my smartphone and headed down to the Corie James Boulevard to capture some of the images to be found at one of, this happens to be one of Grenada's most magnificent landscapes, the lagoon. It's all a part of pure Grenada, right? Right. Right. Folks, the waterfront is one of the most picturesque places on the island. And one would hope that we would take a level of pride in preserving and showcasing it. Instead, I'm going to show you some footage. Take a look. These are some of the boats that are lying around the lagoon. These are not too far from, almost in front of Foodland. Yeah, almost in front of Foodland. Look at this one. Need a boat for your kids? So they can putt around in the bathtub? Yeah. Look at that. Just sitting there in the back. This one looks like a high-speed craft if I ever saw one. But that too. Sits abandoned. Well, this one was, I should say no more. Look at that. More bits and pieces. Look at that. Look at these. Just sitting there. See the yachts in the background? And look at the trees. Huh? It's a beautiful, otherwise beautiful environment. Look at this one. Looks like it's been through a war. Looks like it's been shot up. Look at that. You're seeing it with your own eyes, folks. Georgie ain't making this stuff up. Good. Corie James Boulevard. Surrounding one of the most picturesque spots. Junk. Junk. Take a look yourselves. Take a look. seeing in the back of the stern there, that just jumped. Look at this one, sunk. Right on the water. Yeah. Garbage. This is the editorial can. Sooner or later, you're going to hear a lot of yada, 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 yada on radio and television. Look at the tires. Look at the tires. Right on the waterfront there. A lot of talk. A lot of talk. Look at this one. A toilet. Sign for yourself. I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad you saw it. Folks, aren't there people whose responsibility it is to preserve our environment? Yeah, it's also the responsibility of you and me to not go dumping garbage there, and that's why we have legislation. But why not enforce the legislation? You go to Parliament, blah, 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 blah. It's the cure to all our problems. New legislation. And then you do diddly squat about it. Ain't that shameful? Ain't that shameful? And then you go to the media, you know, come and see what we're doing. We're cleaning here, we're doing this, we're doing that. Hogwash. Please, people, wake up. And then you spend millions of dollars talking about pure Grenada. Who are we kidding? Lydia James says, oh, by the way, Joycey Smith is joining us from St. Patrick. Girl, I'm glad you're hearing us. Lydia says, it's an eyesore. Can't it be cleaned up? Damn it, yes, Lydia, it can be. They did some cleaning up. Probably didn't clean everything, but they did some cleaning up sometime. I think it must have been maybe a year, no more than 2 years ago. They did some stuff. Didn't you hear all the brouhaha in the media? Renewed Purpose says, such a disgrace. Kipling Francis says, someone would accuse you of showing degrading pictures of Grenada, but we with our head intact knows you are just concerned and wish the very best. Kipling, valid point, valid point. I've had that before. But damn it, I'm going to show that people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing in this country. And not just the authorities, but for those people who create the havoc out there. They are also disgraceful to this country. All right? So, it's not just the authorities who need to be blamed. The people who are dumping need to be blamed as well. But that's why there is legislation. Pick them up. Dump them for dumping. Grenada Sunshine says, why is Grenada such a lawless island? Enforce the laws now? Absolutely. Very valid point, Grenada Sunshine, and that's the point I am trying to make. Enforce the legislation. Andrea St. B says, good morning. That pileup has been there for a while. Just disgusting right there in the lagoon. I was shocked when I visited recently. See, folks, I'm not the only one who's seen it, but they ain't gonna come after you. They'll come after George Grant because he have the gall to open his mouth and talk about it. You know, you've seen the scars. Arthur Langine says they had promised to clean it up. Yes, Arthur. Yes, they did. They did. Pilgrims, pilgrims, what are we becoming as a people? Leon Cummings says it's like this. It's like every Sunday this happens. Yeah, I guess he's talking about the dropouts. Folks, I sympathize with you on the dropouts. I hope you sympathize with me because I'm trying to monitor this here as well, and I have to keep refreshing. Yvonne Joseph says, soon as you show the photos, you're gone again. Hey, Yvonne, that's the way things happens around here, you know. Because you are one of the people who join us weekly on Good Day Grenada, so you've seen it. Everybody sees. Lydia James says, poor Grenada. It's not pure Grenada, it's poor Grenada. Ernesto says, where are the owners of these boats? Can they be fined? Thanks, Mr. G, for bringing up the awareness. Something needs to be done now and without hesitation. Great video, always. Yeah, folks, I don't know. It's wearisome. It's wearisome. All right. 2 minutes after the hour. Now, I am expecting a call from Mr. Corie Bain. Corie is hold on a sec. Bob Marishow says, fines, fines, and more fines. That's the only way. Can raise a lot of taxes that way. You know something, Mr. Marishow? Yeah. Taxes could be raised. But I keep saying, you know, I'm not saying you will ever be able to get rid of all the littering that takes place in this country. Littering takes place all over the world. Let's get real. But you know, folks, on a tiny island such as ours, which is so dependent on our tourism industry, if you make a few examples of some people, the message will start to sink in, you know. I could be wrong, but it seems to me that's why you have laws. Huh? You have laws against killing people, but in places where you really pay a price for killing people, you see that the number is down. And we're talking about much bigger countries than ours. And it's not just about littering. It's about things like the sexual abuse of women that's taking place and sexual abuse of children that's taking place in this country. Make a few examples. By the way, a lot of talk lately about the state of traffic in this place. Did you hear somebody else died yesterday? This one, apparently there's an accident involving a motorcycle and 2 cars down on the Lansipine stretch down there. Young man died. Yeah. I'm not going to cast any judgment because I do not know the circumstances involved in the accident. But it's just another road fatality in this country. Just another. Kipling says, Mr. Grant, to get things done, one has to call and plead your cause so the minister's stooges can beg them to get something done. Sad but true. Andrea St. B says, what about those trawlers by Food Fair? Heard they were moved when the Royals visited. Royals gone, trawlers come back. You know, what else can you do but laugh? You know, it's either that or you let your pressure go up, have a stroke. Eh? Sharon Elizabeth Roberts says, the people who own these boats should be charged, and anyone leaving boats there in the future should move them within 24 hours or lose them. Excellent suggestion, Sharon. Excellent. Do you think they heard you? Margaret says, Gigi, contrary to conventional wisdom, the death penalty doesn't reduce killing. The hard data is there to show that too. Okay, Mags, I've heard that argument loud and clear, time and time again. Margs, so we're saying that if we enforce the Littering Act, the Noise Control Act, littering and noise will not be abated in any way. Is that the rationale? I really don't think you mean that. I really don't think you mean that. But yes, I have heard that argument made before. You know, folks, I don't know. And then we spend money. Pure Grenada. Did you see the piece we did a few weeks ago? On Mount Hartman, I think it was. Mount Hartman. Supposedly intended to be the site of not just any little straggly hotel. Ritz-Carlton, PETNA. The Ritz-Carlton. Did you see what we showed? I was promised by the two people who took me down to the Ritz-Carlton that sometime this month they're going to come get me so that we could actually do a tour around the island. Because these are two very highly acclaimed tour operators. They have done thousands, literally thousands of trips around this island, trying to show off the beauty of Grenada to visitors who come grace our shores. And it's sometimes embarrassing for them when they have to show that filth to our visitors. And I'm not just saying, I'm not just concerned about showing it to our visitors. Forget about the visitors. What about our pride? Our pride, huh? Keeping the place clean, our environment neat, huh? Hold on a sec, let me get back here. Kipling says, that's true, Margaret, but that's one less to kill again. He's referring to Margaret saying that the death penalty doesn't reduce killing. Ernesto says, Kipling, I think Release It with Godfrey is better. They listen to that program. Margaret says, it has to be more than enforcement. You have to develop a culture of cleanliness. People have to learn to like being clean. Amen, Margs. Amen. People need to learn to like being clean. So then, does it start with the schools? Some may argue that it does. I think it starts in the home. But then again, if the people in the home weren't brought up liking being clean, what do you expect from their children? Ask yourself that question, pilgrims. Ask yourself that question. No easy answers. No easy answers. But it involves a change in the mindset of the people, and that's one of the things we keep harping on here on Grenada Broadcast. And I say Grenada Broadcast because it's not It's not just on this program. When we do Make We Chat on a Thursday night, you also hear not just the governments, but the people of the country being blamed for the state of affairs, not just in Grenada, but in the Caribbean right now. The whole place, it's all over. So yeah, government needs to take responsibility. That's what you pay them to do. Govern, huh? Okay. But not just that, folks. We also have a situation where the people need to take responsibility for their actions. And I remember as a little child growing up, my mother and father and grandmother, I don't remember any of my grandfathers, but they had a little proverb which has stuck with me all my life. You can't hear, you will feel. Pat out. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. While I await our call, let's lighten things up a little bit here. While I await my call from Mr. Corie Bain, I think Corie is out there in Ontario someplace. I would like to share with you a video which I received yesterday. It's a video of our bishop, Clyde Harvey, doing an extempore piece. Yeah, you heard me. Bishop Harvey doing extempore. And it's a piece that he did to promote an upcoming festival, the Festival of Pentecost. I want you to take a quick look at this. This is sure to put a smile on your face.
La da dee da 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 do, la da dee da 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 do, la da dee da 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 dee da da da. Sancti Manite. So I want all Catholic to know, Progress Park is the place to go. On that glorious Pentecost day, we can say, you don't have nothing to pay. Just come with yourself and your family, and let we all be really happy. For the Catholic Church is arising on the way. Sancti Manite. La da dee da 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 dee da 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 do. Sancti Manite. So all of you who faithful, and you've been coming to church like you're good, I want all you to know that we have a lot of them to invite as well. A lot of people who have been astray and haven't been joining we on the way. Tell them to we not charging, nothing to pay. Sancti Manite. La da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee. Sancti Manite. So you're coming to celebrate Mass, and everything that nice they go pass. It even have food for sale, you know, and some people bringing their own. It's a day of fun and festivity to celebrate the fact that Jesus with we, and we go bring Jesus more to Grenada land to see. Sancti Manite. La da da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee. Sancti Manite. So I'm looking forward to welcome all you from every part of Grenada. So some hotels and St. George's, we everybody coming is one country. And we come in to hug up and kiss we all them people we ain't see for a long time because it's a day of festivity and much happiness. Sancti Manite. Da da dee da 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 dee. Sancti Manite.
I told you. Yes, sirree. That's Bishop Clyde Harvey. And Arthur Langine says, well done, Bishop, you've made my day. And I can understand why Langine is saying that. The man could sing. And Lydia James says, that's a Trini to the bone. Yeah, man. Bishop Clyde Harvey. Well, it's always got something to fall back on. By the way, Lydia also went back a little bit here. She posted something here that says, bits of paper, lying on the floor, lying on the floor. Make the place untidy, make the place untidy. Pick them up. Pick them up. Do they still teach that in school? Doesn't seem so. Ernesto says, I think we should have the saying as in New York. See something, say something. Okay. Folks, there he is, there he is, there he is. Let me show you what hold on a minute here. Kipling says, nothing going to surprise me. Scriptures must fulfill. We have strayed so far from God, we no longer know who we are. It's getting harder to know who is man or woman. End of time is fast approaching. Ooh, Kipling's getting very philosophical there this morning. Folks, take a look at that. Take a look at that person. See that person up there? There he is. Boy, what a haircut. What a haircut. That is Mr. Corie Bain. And he's up there in Canada. And we're going to take a little break here right now. But we're going to come back and talk with Corie right after this. Hold on.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Mouth Open Story Jump Out comes to Brooklyn and Washington, D.C., featuring the humor and storytelling of Ricardo Kings Douglas.
They say she comes all the way up here to Toronto to shop for cosmetics and go back down.
Roll back the years in Brooklyn with Lord Nelson. Also in the Brooklyn concert, Quick USA. And in Washington, Diane and Friends. And Julian Moore. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th. In Brooklyn at the Tropical Reflection Ballroom on 4501 Glenwood Road from 6 p.m. It's the perfect Father's Day treat. Tickets, $30 in advance. Available at Eventbrite and popular outlets. Or call 347-350-4285 in Brooklyn and 240-460-0442 in Washington, D.C., Maryland. Brooklyn. Special guest, the Mighty Sparrow, will be joined by cultural ambassadors and preservationists to be recognized with New York State proclamations. They include Lord Nelson, Derek Vento, Heron Rockin' J. Douglas, Gentle Benjamin, Lambert, and the Matadors, and the Quake USA Cultural Organization. Additionally, 2 lucky patrons will get to stay free at the award-winning Blue Horizons Garden Resort in Grenada for 3 nights, including breakfast and a dinner at La Belle Creole Restaurant, sponsored by Tropical Reflection Ballroom, Blue Horizon Gardens Resort, The Penny Firm, Caribbean Times Newspaper, Dr. Derek Lezama, Century 21 Achievers Realty, Attorney Glenroy George, The Otley Law Firm, and Funk Media NYC. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Brooklyn, Father's Day. Mouth Open, Story Jump Out.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
20 minutes after the hour, folks. Time now to say good morning to Mr. Corie Bain. There he is. Good morning, sir. And can you hear us?
Good morning. I can hear you just fine.
Right, that's good. Welcome, Corie, and congratulations, congratulations. I understand that you're now a graduate. Look at that beam in his face, smiling.
Sorry, could you repeat?
I said...
Just adjusting.
Okay, I was saying congratulations, and you got that really happy look on your face this morning, and I can certainly understand why. Why don't we start, first of all, but you've been on the program before, but I want to start by letting people have a sort of introduction to Corie Bain. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Okay, so as you explained before, I'm a recent graduate from McMaster University, and I was given the opportunity to pursue computer science by the PETNA Foundation due to my voluntary experience and my schooling experience when I was in GBSS, and prior to that, primary school, I volunteered in such initiatives as that was based on community development, and due to that, I was given the opportunity to pursue a degree which I could use those skills to help Grenada and develop myself as a better individual. Yep.
Okay, but what part of the island are you from?
Sorry?
What part of the island are you from?
Okay, so I am from Cooper Hill in St. George's, for everyone that's from there.
Okay, now, you said you were doing volunteer work before you got the scholarship. Tell us a little bit about that volunteer work that you were doing. You are a graduate of the GBSS, are you?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, GBSS grad. And then I guess while with the GBSS you were doing some volunteer work in the community, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I was involved in teaching computer skills to orphans at the Queen Elizabeth Home. So basically I would go and try to give the kids an idea of how to use a computer, because it's a computer as well in this modern age. And also Bel Air Children's Home, which is another orphanage, I would do the same, go and teach computer technology skills, how to use basic applications such as Paint, such as Word, PowerPoint, and to make them better prepared to enter the school and workforce eventually.
Okay, so I get the feeling that, I mean, even from an early age, you were sort of IT inclined.
Yep, that's correct, yeah.
All right. And how did that come about? Were your mom and dad IT inclined, or is this just something you picked up by watching TV or reading magazines?
Yeah, so when the internet came into my life, I would say I would spend time just looking at YouTube videos and figuring out ways to dismantle computers and dismantling what I owned. And I realized I had a fascination to pursue programming, especially when I would look at certain tutorials and I saw how programming could be used to solve real world problems. And that's why I decided to even pursue computer science, because I realized that the use of software could solve a lot of issues in this day and age. And at the same time, it's very fun, it's very logical, very abstract problems really interest me.
You know, it's interesting that you should mention that, because a lot of people frown on YouTube, but obviously YouTube did something very good for you. It steered you in the right direction. Huh?
Yep. Yeah, I think it really leveled the playing field in terms of the amount someone could learn. Even while I was at McMaster, anytime there was some concept I wasn't familiar with, I could pull up a YouTube video, and whenever I could learn how the concept could be compared to real day life and a real day situation, it piqued the interest of what I was learning and helped me to remember even easier.
Would you believe that even I do a lot of research on YouTube?
Yes, I definitely believe so.
Yeah.
I always preach that YouTube really, really levels the playing field in terms of what you can learn and education.
All right. So YouTube influenced you, and then let's get to the part where you wound up getting yourself a scholarship from the PETNA Foundation.
Yep. So PETNA Foundation is an organization which also looks to forward community development, and established by Mr. Nicholas Broffett and his wife, Mrs. Janice Broffett. So they saw that Grenada had a lot of potential, and they were offering a scholarship, which was to enroll in full-time studies at McMaster University and pursue pretty much any degree of choice with up to the individual, and to show that it could be used to further Grenada's plight in terms of development. And so I applied, and due to my lucky stars, I was successful in receiving it.
Did they find you, or you found them?
I found them. I heard about it through the grapevine. That's another thing I wanted to speak on, about always keeping the ears open for opportunities that may come up. It's sometimes difficult to learn about such opportunities, but also keep a network close so you could hear through word of mouth, especially in Grenada. With the island being as small as it is, word tends to travel around. Always keep professionals close, friends close, and just keep an open ear. And so I heard through the grapevine. I looked into it, I researched internet again, got all the details, and decided to go through with that application.
Okay, so let's talk about the application process. You decided, okay, let's try the PETNA Foundation. Take it from there.
Okay, so the application involved, first, it checked your grades up to that particular point, and also your community experience. Then there was certain references you had to get from multiple influential people in your life. And then there were a couple rounds of interviews that a top person was selected at each stage. And at the very end, the recipient was chosen.
So it's a process.
Yep. It was a long and winding process, but I mean, that's understood. I mean, because it was a big opportunity, and it had to be made sure that the person that received it was willing to go through. And a lot of people, it was very competitive on my part, because I wasn't even sure if I would be the recipient at the end of the day, because I'm so always surprised of how much bright minds are in Grenada. So especially with this opportunity, there was so much competition, there were so many bright minds, and even myself, I was wondering if I would even be the recipient at the end of the day. That's why in the future, I would really, really like to help and send another person to give them an opportunity to study, because I see so many bright minds in our country that could do so much more.
Absolutely, and they're just waiting for opportunities.
Yeah, not opportunity. I really, really have in my mind that I really want to make sure that I could return the favor. And yep.
Well, you see, that's good. Obviously, you're forward thinking, Corie. You didn't just sit around and wait. You were looking, eh?
Yep.
You were searching. Now, so you go ahead and you apply, and I imagine that when PETNA decides to finance a scholarship for you, they would be looking for certain things in return. They would like you to, not just get a degree, but deliver something to this country. Let's hear the terms that they outline. I'm assuming there are terms.
Okay, so their objective is to have a network of talented individuals across Grenada, North America, and other parts of the world, pretty much. So one of the conditions that the scholarship had is that I would give back as a recipient, that I would be able to hello, are you hearing me, George?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yep, so I would be able to give back to the country. It wasn't in fine print. There wasn't any specific requirement, but they knew that the person they chose, that they would know that in their own heart that they should be able to give back and give another person an opportunity to pursue in some level of tertiary education, and start the ball and having a network set up of people that could help the country. Yep.
Okay, so clear-cut and specific terms.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about, okay, you've been given the terms, you've gotten your scholarship, and off to Canada you go. You're in Hamilton, right?
Yep, I am. Yep.
All right. Let's talk about, had you ever lived in Canada before?
No, this was my first time coming to Canada.
Culture shock, Corie?
Yes, definitely.
Let's
Even
talk
my
about
city.
that for a minute.
Okay, so my city, where my school is, where McMaster is, it's more than the entire population of Grenada. It's about 130,000, I would say. So just the amount of people and the weather, especially with the coldness and the temperature, because Canada is very cold. I saw people around me being very, very homesick all the time, and I myself was homesick as well. There's even a study on this, the temperature when it lowers, and outside is very gloomy, it raises depression, and it raises like bouts of dips in mental health, and it's actually a real thing. I saw people all around me being very, very depressed, even though they were living like an hour away, but everyone had their head in the game. I had a network of friends, and everyone knew that what the greater goal was. And that's the thing about having Caribbean friends. Like, we've come so far, so we know it's not an option to back out at that point. You feel that you have a network of people rallying behind you, Grenada, the PETNA, and everyone that put everything into place for you to be there. So at that point, like, failure is not an option.
Right.
It's a real driving force. Yep.
And I imagine you would have had an advantage, because PETNA has quite the relationship with McMaster. And so anything coming from PETNA had to be very warmly welcomed.
Sorry, repeat that.
I said, because of the relationship that the PETNA Foundation has with McMaster University, I imagine that things may have gone a little bit easier for you, because you would certainly, as a PETNA sponsored individual, I imagine that they would really welcome you with open arms.
Yep. That's correct. My master was like wonderful to me. Like, anything that I needed, they would always be there to help. If I wanted to speak to people just to get some motivation and support, they would be right there by my side helping. To me, in my mind, this was a team effort. Like, my time going through McMaster, like, anytime I needed any assistance, and I would reach out and I would be assisted. I really think it was a team effort on everyone's part, and I really couldn't do it by myself.
We're going to talk about the academics in just a wee bit, but I want to touch on this first. You've now spent, what, 3 or 4 years in Hamilton?
So it was 5 years in total, because I had a 1-year internship.
Okay. 5 years living in Canada. Let's talk about some of the things that you have learned. Forget about the academics for a minute. Let's just talk about Corie as a person, Corie Bain as a person. What did you learn about living in a developed country compared to living on a little rock like here?
Okay, so I would definitely say that in terms of being outspoken, in terms of being able to meet people, have a conversation, connect with them, share contact information, be able to network. And in terms of my overall character, I feel that I've become much more outspoken, I would say, if I had to sum it up, and much more aware of how the real world works, how networking works. And yeah, I would say in terms of just being able to develop as an individual, I say like university and higher level education, it really like works wonders, because tutors and professors, they throw you in the deep end. Oh, we have a presentation, you come, you speak in front of thousands of people, in front of a class, and it really just helps you to just like go in and just like do whatever you can to wrap up the situation.
So, am I indirectly hearing you say that you felt a little bit more free, or freer, I'm not sure, I think more free to speak and express yourself in that environment rather than here?
I'm saying that I was put in certain situations where I felt that I was not scared to speak up, pretty much. Not saying that in Grenada, like Grenada, I was very more shy, a timid person. I would not speak up when time needed to be, So I would say that my experience in McMaster just helped me to be like a more outspoken individual, I would say.
All right.
Have a certain aura from command and a leadership type aura, I would say. Yep.
Key word there, leadership. I think that's one of the things that the PETNA Foundation is looking for from its people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would say usually in Grenada, before I got this opportunity, I would be more of the person on the sideline to an extent, although I would still have leadership qualities. It really, really amplified since I came to my master. Like whatever I would take charge of, even more so in Canada and during school, like I would not hesitate for a bit. I would just be able to like pretty much, okay, this is the direction we should go, guys. This is what we should do. Sometimes there would be another person in the group that would know more than me sometimes, and I would be able to connect with them and try to figure out the best course of action. So I would say my leadership skills greatly amplified, and that's one of the things I'm really like thankful for, because I would say now that even job searching, being able to talk and show certain quality traits, it really works like a great deal on how employers look at you.
Yeah. Corie, there are some comments here on social media I want to share with you. First of all, Arthur Langine says, congratulations to you, young man. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
You can salute Arthur.
Much appreciated.
And Ernesto Jose says, a role model for young Grenadians. Congratulations, sir, on your success.
Thank you.
And continue to encourage others, because where there is a will, there is always a way.
Thank you.
Agree with that. Okay. Now, let's stick with leadership for just a minute. You know, and this is where I guess you can bring the academics in. Start by explaining specifically, you were doing IT, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, computer science, yeah.
Computer science.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Kipling says, to this young man, I do admire your ambition and do wish you all the best in your future. Just remember to put God first, always. Good luck, son.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
You just got yourself a stepfather. Yeah, let's take a look at the academics. The computer science, it's a term that's bandied around a lot. In your own words, define computer science, and then tell me how you see yourself playing a leadership role when you get back here.
Sorry, what was that? You asked me to define computer science, right?
Yes. And then, how do you see yourself playing a leadership role when you get back here? Because that's the key. That's what everybody's expecting from Corie Bain when he comes back.
Yep. Okay, so I would say computer science is the field of study that involves interacting with data and using data to form algorithms, statistical models, and solving real-world problems. For instance, if there was a quick example, if there was a busing system and you wanted to know where a bus would be at a particular time, you would use this would all be going in the background with a vast collection of data, and every time a bus would stop, the data would be sent to some server and a response would be given. So in Grenada, the computer science degree especially, it just gave me an eye, I would say, to be walking somewhere and see a course of business, some course of action being done, and try to figure out ways in my mind, okay, how could I make this easier using software? How could I stop employers from doing repetitive tasks, entering entries one after the other, thousands of lines, like fast ways, like ways to automate things and improve the quality of life, I would say. Yep.
And you see, go ahead.
Yep, so in terms of in Grenada, so there's a lot of ways I would see software being able to be used in terms of the transit system, in terms of the taxi system, and there's a lot of models to even follow. because when learning the basics, it gives you an idea of how technology can be used. For instance, we have a busing system that's owned, and up here it's owned by the government in Canada, for instance. So all of the busing is controlled, and it's all in a way that someone could check their phone and see when a bus is coming and when a bus is leaving. For instance, as well, I would say that in terms of production, agriculture as well, like vast amounts of data. I'm not sure what happens in the background, but there's ways that those things could be automated, and the process could be sped up in terms of like counting, like distribution-wise, logistics-wise. Anywhere data is used, which is everywhere pretty much, in all sectors, computer science could be used to ease the task and make it more efficient and increase productivity and increase, a lot of aspects of the business. So in Grenada, there's a lot of room for where such a degree could be used.
As you mentioned earlier on, there are a lot of brilliant youngsters here in Grenada with terrific ideas, and they're looking for opportunities to sort of implement those ideas. The thing is, sometimes they run up against a major obstacle where you have people who may be in positions way before these kids, and they're not ready to adapt. So I'm just preparing you when you come home, Corie. Try not to get frustrated.
I understand.
You understand. All right, my dear sir. Again, my heartfelt congratulations to you. This is a real accomplishment. I'm sure that PETNA is very proud of you. And I'm going to ask you to, I don't like to use the term advice, but essentially that's what it is, to two groups of people. One, to people like, PETNA has been very kind to you, and they've made this possible for you, and it's a great accomplishment. But there are other people out there who are probably in the same situation that PETNA is in. Speak to them and encourage them to help youngsters like yourself who are trying to move forward.
Okay, so I would say, firstly, find whatever your passion is and build a brand off of that passion. With how the internet is, you could design a website and have what you like to do, have a portfolio of examples of what you've been doing. Find a passion and learn how to get an income stream from that. And it could be something you could work after your 9-to-5 job. Basically, find your purpose, find the thing you like to do, and it takes a while to actually find exactly what you would like to do that feels like you're not working, but at the same time, even though it's work. There's this YouTube series I remember watching, and it's based on finding your purpose. I can't remember the actual link. Maybe I'll send that to you sometime after. So when you find such a thing, it feels like you're not working. And even going into the public sector on a job, just imagine working every day and feel like you're not working a day in your life. So for the youth, I would say, build a brand, find your purpose, build a brand, do a website advertising, which you can do. And all of this could be done after your 9-to-5 job. So even if something were to happen in a job, for instance, you always have something to fall back on. Yeah?
No, that's for the youngsters, right?
Yep.
But what about the investors out there, people who need to come forward like PETNA did?
Yep.
What would you say to them? It's worth their time and money, isn't it?
Yep. Okay, so I would definitely say Grenada has so much untapped talent, especially now. I've seen, just scrolling on my social media, all the projects that certain people do over there in Grenada, just like using the internet and using their self-taught skills. So it just makes me wonder how much they would actually learn being in a university setting in order for their skills to be amplified. So I would say there's definitely a bunch of talent in Grenada untapped, and investors really should look into Grenada as a source, because I've seen Caribbean people that are even smarter than me that do a lot of projects having no university education. So it just makes me wonder if they were to be thrown in on a university opportunity where they can get a degree and be pushed into a field where they have to make deadlines and build their character, build their leadership traits, the amount of quality Grenadians we could produce. So I really, really want other organizations to look at that, you know, we could become a really, really dominant force.
Absolutely, and it's not just a matter of building hotels or restaurants or businesses, but help build the minds of our people, right?
Yep, that's correct, definitely.
Thanks a lot. When are you coming home?
At the moment, I am looking at job opportunities. I plan to get a foothold in Canada first. Though still having Grenada in very deep thought about how I could use my skills to help the situation in the country. I just find that even on my internship when I was there a year, the amount I learned, and every time I would learn something new, I would think back. I had a bunch of examples, actually. I would probably share them with you after. I was just thinking back about how certain day-to-day aspects of life in Grenada and how I could use my degree to make the quality of life better, I would say, and improve business, improve data collecting. So I think just having a few more years of such experience, I would get even more of those ideas, more of these skills to be able to be in a much better position to help the country.
Congratulations.
And to answer your question, I am not too sure when I'm coming back as of now, but after I secure a job offer, I would return depending on when my start date is. And I would definitely make frequent trips to my country, which I love so much, so dear to my heart.
And keep in touch with us.
Definitely.
Good luck with your job hunting, bro.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Corie Bain has just recently completed his studies in computer science at McMaster University. And there he is, speaking to us from Hamilton, Ontario. Thanks a lot. Corie, we're going to move along right now. Folks, let me take a little break here, and we'll come on back.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
My name is Jennifer James, and I've been making confectionaries for the past 7 years. Growing up as a little girl, I always wanted to make these little things. Fudge, sugar cake, tamarind ball, these little things. I read something actually, and it said that tamarind itself is very good because it eliminates fat from the liver. You get the mature tamarind and you crack it, you shell it out. I would add a little baking soda, some spices. I would leave it to rest probably for about 2 hours and then add my sugar and just start kneading. I usually knead it hard enough so that I can roll it. When I finish roll it, I will paste it with the actual white or brown sugar, and you have a nice tamarind ball. I have been providing food fair with tamarind ball about 6 years now. I started producing tamarind ball to sell for the school children. I thought I could advance somewhere. So I went to food fair and I asked one of the sales persons there to, if they would be interested in selling my tamarind ball. And she told me yes. She told me to bring 20 packets to start with. It was really a joy for me because I wanted to extend on my little business. My name is Jennifer James and I work with the food fair to provide you with tamarind balls.
Alrighty, folks. Ryan says Grenada has a lot of raw IT talent that can be channeled into productivity. Arthur Langine says, thank you, George, for that interview with the gentleman. Yes, Arthur, brilliant young man, and I'm expecting a lot from him. He's going to do very well. And Ryan says, love this Tambourine Bowl advert. It's a cottage industry. Now, see that gentleman sitting there? This is one of the two gentlemen I was expecting earlier on. He says he's been waiting outside. Well, we didn't see him. We didn't hear him. His name is Mr. Keith Patrick. Mr. Patrick, sir, good morning, and how are you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant.
Hey, you can just call me George.
George.
All right.
All right. I'm okay this morning, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you're here to talk with us about the bicycle relays, okay? This is an inaugural event. First time you guys are doing it?
Yes, certainly.
And it's being put on by the GTC, Grenada Trade Center?
Grenada Trade Center with the classic LED lighting. The classic LED lighting is a product of the Grenada Trade Center.
Okay.
And we were looking, because I do a sports program on the GTC FM station every Saturday. And so we are looking for ideas to create more activity for young people in terms of sport. We are also looking forward to an additive to the sport calendar. And thirdly, we want to give an opportunity for persons like Grenada in general to have another sports tourism activity so that business people in the area could accrue business off of the event.
All right. Now, this bicycle relay, I want you to get specific. Start by explaining to me what exactly is this bicycle relay.
The bicycle relay is an event which is going to be staged this afternoon between 3 and 6 p.m. The bicycle event encapsulates the masters, who are the senior persons. It takes into consideration the children in the secondary schools. We are also offering opportunities for students of primary schools to ride, and like toddlers with little three cycles. I am throwing out an offer for persons who are listening to your program and would like their kids to come down this afternoon. We have an event for the tricycle race. The races are going to be contested among the Grandans area. That's between like the Gittins, and you go down to the hotels, come around to the police station and come around. That's the loop. We are having
the Montrouge?
The Montrouge area.
Okay.
We are having 4x-quarter loop, 4x-half loop, 4x1 loop for different categories of students.
What's a quarter loop?
Well, a quarter loop is a 200-meter event. So you may start at the junction, going into the Grandans Beach, and finish at the entrance of the Grenada Trade Center.
Ah, okay, right? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like a sprint.
Like a sprint. We are having racing bikes, BMX bikes, and general bikes participating.
Okay.
We are having the real event this afternoon is a ride from the airport to the Grenada Trade Center.
Okay.
But that would be of a relay format, which we have measured out distances that the cyclists would do. So like we have from the airport to Foxin is one area, from Foxin to like the roundabout is another area. Then at the sugar mill, you make a right around the sugar mill, and then you come back and finish at in front of the Grenada Trade Center.
Okay, you're going to have to explain this one to me. A bike relay. So you leave the airport, you ride X number of yards, then you get off your bike and hand the baton to somebody else?
Persons will be able to use one bicycle, or they have the opportunity to use 4 bikes. There are measured areas designated. Once your bike encompasses that area, your other partner can leave off. There'll be persons monitoring those areas to make sure it's like a zone in the athletic relay. So once you're within that zone, your other rider can leave.
But you don't have to hand the baton?
There's no baton handing over.
Okay. Wow. All right. And they're going to be how many legs?
4 legs.
4 legs. Okay. So from the airport to Fox
Inn,
right?
From Fox Inn to just
Sugar Mill.
Yeah, Sugar Mill, and then you go around. You make another circumference. So you come around the Sugar Mill. You go back down the Morris Bishop Highway
to the True Blue roundabout,
and you come up, and then you come to the Grenada Trade Center.
All right. Wow. Now I understand that I was talking to Mr. Bideau a couple of days ago because I understand that he's the man behind this.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah. And he mentioned to me that although this is the first event, already you guys are seeing some sort of interest from other territories.
Well, we did the event this year locally, but the intention of the Grenada Trade Center / the Classic LED Lighting is to have another event next year of an international standard. We have already started to have interest because we have patented the event, and so it's out there on the website, and people are already trying to show interest for next year.
All right. And what sort of prizes do these people get?
Which ones? This year?
Yeah.
Okay. We have prizes with sponsorship from the Fantasia, from the Communal Cooperative Credit Union. We have prizes from the Sports Shop, Cool Systems. The Classic LED Lighting would be giving out prizes of the quality product to every school child that participates in the event. So you may get a light, a bulb, or something of the sort. Flow, which collaborates with the Grenada Trade Center, going to be offering prizes this afternoon. Maybe they give away a couple of phones, etc., some memorabilia of that nature.
Okay. Tell me something in general. Bicycling, when I was a little guy growing up, it seemed like we had a lot more interest in bicycling. I guess in those days we didn't have cars and SUVs and all that kind of stuff. Is bicycling on the rebound here in Grenada right now?
Well, to answer that question specifically, this is a question I keep asking all the time. In fact, I had Keith Rennick yesterday on my program, who is the president of the Grenada Cycling Association.
There is an association, eh?
Oh, yes. I like that question. Yes, there is an association. So I invited him because he's my schoolmate, and I know. But I suggested to him whether he thought that cycling was on the down. And on my program, I always keep saying that as an association that is not functioning. I had to apologize to him because he intimated to me the shortcomings of what is happening with cycling. And the same points that you have now raised in terms of the amount of traffic on the road, the more vehicles we have now, in terms of the behavior of the persons who are using our roads, in terms of drivers, do not have respect for people who are riding. And in other countries that I visited, there's an area specified for cyclists. We do not have that here. Secondly, prior to yesterday, I've spoken to Troy Felix and suggested to him why it is that they don't try to get a velodrome. But I know nowadays, like my time, this month I'll be 65, and I grew up in the Riverwood area, so I was privy to see like the Whitsuntide Games that is happening sometime next week or week after, that cyclists from St. Lucia, Dominica, Suriname, Trinidad, and Roger Gibbon and so used to come and ride in Grenada.
Roger Gibbon?
Yes, and the Williams boys and the Pierre boys and Pakati. In fact, I met Pakati yesterday. And he looked at me and he said, but I know your face. I say, aren't you Pakati? He said, yes, that's why I call you. And he's still walking. So I said, how old are you? He said, make a guess. I said, 86. He said, you're very close. I'm 89.
Wow.
But yesterday, Keith expressed sentiments of why it is that persons who cycle, have longevity in terms of their livelihood. It's because it strengthens the heart. It's less strenuous on the bones and more of the muscular and tissue of the body. So therefore, your strength, both in your legs and your heart, that's why these fellas will be around a long time.
There's somebody listening to you right now in Orlando, Florida. He's watching you. He says, put the bicycle ride relay on the net. And he says, I could tell you are a bicyclist. You are fit.
Well, not a bicyclist, but I grew up in Queen's Park, so I was privy to, like I always say on my program, some people
you kick a lot of football in Queen's Park.
Yeah, a lot of gospel in the days. We used to play you know, I see lemon now is a national iconic something. I used to play cricket with lemon, so you bowl up and you play with a coconut bat and you hit it back and you bust one time and thing. But no, you can't find a lemon. You have to order lemons because we get so cognizant of the health values of it. But to come back specifically to the question that the young man is saying, I rode bicycles, I rode horses, play football, play cricket, swam, because that is what it was in the days. And right now at my age, I walk every morning, I try to swim, I go pull the net for exercise. I come from a physical educative background. I did that at Presentation College. So I'm very cognizant of what health is, and I've changed my diet, to substantiate that.
So I see here a comment, I'm sure this is a local comment, Gren's Auto Body?
Yeah, Green's Auto Body, yeah.
Green's Auto Body.
Uh-huh.
The person says, George, I'm happy to see that someone has taken up my idea of a bicycle race in Grenada, which I started in 2000, which was called Green's Father's Day Bicycle Race. I remember that.
Is that Mr. Green?
I'm assuming so. It says Green's Auto Body, so...
Yeah, well, I volunteered with Mr. Green for many years. He knows me. When I was at Presentation College, he
You're a PBC guy?
Oh, yeah.
What?
I attended there from 1967 to 1973.
Okay.
And I was a games master at school for 10 years, from 2000 to 2010.
Okay.
So that's my alma mater. I'm very proud of them. I still try to keep in contact and so. But at the time, I brought boys to Mr. Green's event, and I actually officiated in the event. So I assisted Greens in that context.
All right. Ryan Jaban in Florida says, role model for preventative health. Ryan is one of those people who advocates that we keep ourselves active, to avoid a lot of the illnesses that people run into today.
I listen to your program. I know Ryan is a regular contributor.
Ryan, the cat's out of the bag, boy. They keep
but
track on you.
I do have Dr. Sonia Johnson, who is very enthused about health in terms of athletes' health. And so she comes on the program. We talk about all different aspects of health. And I'm one who thinks that if we try to get our nation as healthy as possible, it will cost us so less in terms of the cure for it. If we use the preventative method, if our people are more fit, they're more productive, it means our economy will be better.
Absolutely.
But there are other things which are trying to negate that, and the observation I have is that a lot of young people, they're not interested in cooking and that kind of thing because they have the availability of the thing, but it's going to be manifesting itself in a not too distant future, and maybe I hope that it's going to be not too late for our country.
All right, and let me say to Green's Auto Body, Mr. Green's Auto Body, it would be nice to see that Father's Day bicycle ride again. I think he's been on my program. Actually, back in those days, we used to do the program in Tantine.
In Tantine, yeah.
Tantine.
Yeah. This was a big thing.
Yeah.
We had cyclists coming from Antigua, St. Lucia, and it was quite well organized. It was a big thing. We used to have the prize giving ceremony down at the fish market down there. The ride used to come out of Sotez and come down. It was a big thing. But you asked a question whether I think cycling is on the rise or on the down. If you walk around in all the different communities, it used to be a prize. Like for me and you when we were growing up, if you had a cyclist, just like if you had a BMW vehicle, because you had some means of transportation which a lot of your peers would have envied. There's lots of persons riding. In fact, I got 4 of the little guys who I see riding up and down in my area, and registered them and encouraged them to come down and ride this year.
Okay.
One of the things in terms of our event, we had the event carded for the 28th of May, which clashed with the Cooperatives Bank Pump It Up Day. So we had to postpone the event and put it on this day. In our technical meeting, we are going to be looking at that sometime next year, because quite obviously we have to take into consideration the fact that this is the period when, because we really want to encourage more of the schools to participate in the event. And this is the period when students are doing their CXCs, and they are doing their preparation for their final exam for promotion.
Okay.
So we are going to take that into consideration. We are also looking at trying to make cycling part of the annual, one of the events on the cards of all the schools in the area to develop cycling. In my dialogue with Keith yesterday, I suggested to him that maybe they can have an area and have a velodrome where the event could be put on, because cycling is a big thing. And so he said that he had a promise from the government, and look what happened with the swimming and etc., etc. Well, we're hearing what's happening with the swimming. And so I suggested to him that he go into the GOC, the local arm of the IOC here. They are very proactive right now. I've been interviewing Dr. Jane Noel, who has taken over the chairperson of the women arm. We have had the Paralympic part of the GOC there. Mrs. Steele came to speak about different aspects of that. So that's where we're going. So I think cycling is not dead, it's just that it's not organized. And Keith actually acquiesced to the fact, because I suggested to him that he can use the Sports Vibes platform to disseminate information relative to what is happening in cycling. He intimated to me that Grenada is going to be participating in some event somewhere and some events, and nobody knows about that.
Yeah.
And he said that's one of the problems in the organization.
All right. Ryan says, ha ha ha. Yep. He says, move it or lose it. Especially as a senior and retired person. Margaret is, Margaret and Ryan, these are two people who are on this program
every Sunday.
Every Sunday, and hey,
unless when you are blocked or cut off.
Yeah. and they're with us during the week as well. And Margaret says, thank you. We need more people to get on the preventative health train. She's always telling people, we could avoid a lot of the medical expenses we incur just by keeping fit.
Certainly.
Ernesto says, bicycles relay. That's a great idea. We'll encourage Grenadians to ride more bicycles and will help eliminate the number of vehicular accidents we've been having lately. You heard that somebody died again yesterday.
Yeah, as Keith walked into the studio, he told me he was late because there was an accident down in Lansopine. Yeah, unfortunate, huh?
And Margaret says, if my memory serves me right, wasn't cycling a part of Intercall way back then?
Yes, it was.
See.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, Keith, listen, pleasure speaking with you. Best of luck and much success coming your way. I think this is a great idea. And perhaps one of these days you should rope Keith Rennick, and you guys come in here and let's have a little chat and get some feedback from the public.
Certainly, you can take my number.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just jotted down there for me.
Yeah, and then I'll be able to give you some feedback maybe as to how the event transpired, because
that would be great.
I'm retired now, and I'm a sports fan. I'm a sports enthusiast. I do commentaries on sports, so maybe that will be part of your program.
Okay, Green's I keep saying Green's Auto Body says, yes, George, the Grenada tour and the Spice event will be back again. Yay! He says, but Grenadians don't like to work together to build anything in Grenada. Keith Rennick don't know anything about hosting bicycle event, but he has gone to him and me. I'm not sure what the last part meant, but anyhow, hey, Green's Auto Body, I understand what you're saying. This is a common problem we have in this country. Common problem. People just cannot work together. But don't give up, because I remember the days when your Father's Day thing was in its heyday.
Oh yeah.
And you've been on my program several times about that. Congratulations. Bring it back. Okay, thank you very much. Ryan says, a velodrome in every parish?
Not in every parish. Certainly not in every parish. But a velodrome where we could have competitive cycling.
Okay.
And because it's an Olympic event, and we should start looking to see where we could give opportunities to young people.
Yeah. Well, we got to go.
All right, great.
We have another guest.
It was nice speaking to you.
Keith Patrick.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Have a nice event, man.
Thank you very much, George.
All right. Okay, folks. And Now, my next guest, I am hoping that he's sitting outside there. Keith, if you see Mr. Ferguson out there, tell him to get his button here. And we expect that Ruggles is going to be up next. And folks, if you're still having trouble, I can tell you are having trouble. A lot of you having an issue on Facebook. Yeah, and just what I'd like you to do, just keep refreshing like I have to do here every couple of minutes. God knows, boy, what have I done to deserve this? But we shall continue trucking. Let's take a little break here, and we're going to come back.
Boy, yo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, Clyde. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, you can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADA. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
There he is, folks. Take a look. There he is, Mr. Ferguson. I got the man out of bed on a Sunday. Boy, George, you're not a very nice person. You're not a very nice person. You got Mr. Ferguson out of bed, and what, you're going to be back in here tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock as well?
At your command.
Ruggles Ferguson, thank you very much, my friend, for joining us this morning. I do appreciate it. Boy, you know, you spent all of Monday afternoon, an hour, trying to explain the outcome of that case you took to the CCJ about the Trinidadian who was refused entry into Trinidad and Tobago by the immigration authorities. And I have since seen a lot of comments on Facebook because there are people who have some questions about the judgment that the CCJ released to the media. It's up on my website. Were you taken aback by that particular judgment? I know you're dealing with two cases. You had the Gilbert family. Okay. But were you taken aback?
Well, taken aback, let me put it this way. When you deal with legal arguments before the court, and especially novel arguments, because this was the first time this particular point was going before the court, and therefore one expects anything. My hope was, though, that the judgment would have gone the other way, given the nature of the issue. The court, I thought, took a very narrow view of the point instead of what you would refer to as a wider liberal view.
First, I want you to summarize the court's decision, and then I'm going to start nitpicking here on the rationale behind it. I'm no legal mind, so I'm counting on you to educate me, okay? But let's start with a synopsis of the court's decision. You said this man's, as his attorney, you said his freedom of movement under the Treaty of Chaguaramas was breached.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And the court said?
Right. If I can just give a brief synopsis of the relevant facts here. One, David Bain flew to Trinidad just before midnight in December 2017. He arrived there at 11:50. And David Bain is both a citizen of the United States and a citizen of Grenada. As we all know, dual citizenship is allowed. When he flew into Trinidad, he flew in with his US passport. His Grenadian passport had expired about some 3 months earlier. During the course of questioning, there was some issue raised where he was accused or accosted about certain drug convictions and being wanted in the US. There was some warrant out for him, and of course he vigorously denied it. Basically, he said, "Wrong man." During the course of questioning, it was revealed that he was a Grenadian citizen. One, he produced to establish his Grenadian nationality 2 independent pieces of documents. One, his driver's license and his voter registration card. The driver's license, on the face of it, has place of birth and it states Grenada. Nationality, Grenadian. So that independent document says he's a Grenadian. The second document, the voter identification card, says on the face of it, place of birth, Grenada. His US passport also has his place of birth as Grenada. And as you know, one of the requisites for citizenship, if you are born in the country, then you automatically become a citizen. He was basically, long and short, he was sent back on the 5:45 day at flight the morning, not allowed any due process at all. So he took the action before the CCJ for breach of his freedom of movement rights, for disallowing him entry into Trinidad. And he was granted leave by the CCJ to bring the action. And before the substantive hearing took place, Trinidad raised certain preliminary points. Well, the principal point being that David Bain was not entitled to be treated as a CARICOM national because on entering Trinidad with a US passport, he waived his rights under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. So that was basically the point. So you can't claim breach of freedom of movement rights when you are not entitled to it, having traveled on a US passport. That's the essence of the point. And the court heard that point as a preliminary point and invited CARICOM, as the CARICOM Secretariat, Legal Department, to also make submissions on the point for Grenada, to make submissions, the state of Grenada, how you acquire a driver's license, how you acquire a voter identification card. And CARICOM essentially says that the only proper document that establishes your nationality for the purpose of invoking rights under the treaty is a CARICOM passport or a passport issued by a CARICOM nation state.
Stick a pin, let me make sure that I heard you. Is it specifically stated somewhere that the only document that could be used to prove your citizenship under the treaty?
No.
No?
No, it's not stated. And that was one of the arguments.
That is my argument.
Right. That in fact, was because it came down to interpretation. So Article 45 basically states that once you are a CARICOM national, you're entitled to freedom of movement among the CARICOM states. So when you enter, it's like a national of the country entering. We're all entitled to freedom of movement. So basically, the substantive right is freedom of movement once you are a CARICOM national. The issue with Bain came down to, did he produce sufficient documentation to establish that he was a CARICOM national. Trinidad says no.
A CARICOM national or a citizen of Grenada?
Well, a citizen of Grenada, because once you are a citizen of Grenada, you are automatically a CARICOM national.
But didn't you say a few moments ago, sir, that the IDs that he had prove that he's a citizen?
Precisely.
Well,
and that was the argument, that an ID is generally used internationally as a form of identification. CARICOM argued that for purposes of the treaty and decisions of heads of government, that an ID was insufficient. Basically, we argued on two limbs. The first limb was that he had sufficient documentation to establish his Grenadian nationality. Cumulatively, his US passport that says his place of birth was Grenada. 2, his voter identification card which says his place of birth is Grenada. And 3, his driver's license which says not only that his place of birth is Grenada, but his nationality is Grenadian. So we said cumulatively, and then we said as a fallback position, even if Trinidad had doubts about it or didn't accept it at the time, it was their duty to make an inquiry instead of sending him back to Grenada on the next flight with immigration authorities here. It would require just a simple phone call if you were in doubt of his nationality.
Ruggles, I think I can rest my case now, because my argument has been all along that it seems to me quite obviously that CARICOM may have messed up here by not making it clear that the only document to establish a person's citizenship and right to freedom of movement is a passport. Because you have just proven that the man did have documents saying he's a Grenadian citizen. And I think it's reasonable that any CARICOM citizen would assume that, okay, I want to claim the right to freedom of movement. All I have to do is prove that I'm a Grenadian citizen. I have a passport, I have a voter ID, I have a driver's license. What more do I want? So come on.
Yes.
It's going to be hard for CARICOM to say, yes, I was wrong. But that's what it boils down to.
Yes, there was a treaty, what was referred to as the CARIPAS Treaty, since 2010, where there is supposed to be a national card that allows CARICOM nationals to travel among the CARICOM states, but that has not been implemented as yet, 9 years later. The treaty did not say and does not say. That's why it's left to interpretation by the court. And we expected the court to give a fairly liberal interpretation, because in reality, some people save up money to travel. That might be all their savings for the year, just to take a little vacation. And then the mere fact that they don't have a CARICOM passport on them gives the immigration authority the right to say, if issues arise, then you go back. We don't have time to investigate your nationality. If on the face of it, you produce documents that show that you are a national. So that's the issue. That's the issue here. And you see, the challenge is you have many persons of dual nationality, especially persons in the diaspora. Like one individual was making the point just about 2 days ago. He was saying, listen, my daughter lives in Toronto. She is a Grenadian to the bone, but does not have, her Grenadian passport has expired sometime now, but she's a Grenadian to the bone. And what it means is that if she tries to enter any CARICOM country, then she's not entitled to CARICOM nationality privileges just because she does not have that document on her.
Let me throw a couple of things at you. First of all, Orion says, I'm a citizen of Grenada by birth and a USA citizen by naturalization. So does that affect me in CARICOM countries?
Well, it entitles him to a passport, but if he doesn't have the passport as a means of identification, and that's what it comes down to, it's really, as CARICOM argued, it is the only proper means of identification to invoke your CARICOM freedom of movement rights.
That's the argument CARICOM put forth in this case.
In this case, CARICOM also argued.
In this case.
Yes, in this case. So in fact, they supported the arguments of Trinidad against us.
All right, I'm going to let that one pause for a minute, but your good friend, Margaret, Margaret and Yatil, she says, the question is, are driver's licenses and voter cards acceptable travel documents?
Well, they're acceptable travel documents within the OECS.
They are?
Yes. So, for example, and again, you have the Treaty of Bastille, the revised treaty, which allows travel within the OECS using your ID cards, your driver's license, or your voter registration card. You can do that within the OECS. So yes, at that level, it's an acceptable travel document.
Okay, Margaret, take that. Now, she says, when he landed, he not only had used a U.S. passport, he declared his nationality to be American. Is there any problem with an American entering Trinidad and Tobago?
No, well, that's the point. Again, you are entitled as a Grenadian and many Caribbean people to dual citizenship. Your citizenship of one country ought not to adversely affect your citizenship of another country. Not because you are a citizen of country A, does that take away any rights from you that you would ordinarily enjoy under citizen country B. And the court recognized that. In fact, the court disagreed with the fundamental tenet and thrust of the Trinidad's argument, because Trinidad's argument was that you automatically lose the right once you travel, or once he traveled on the U.S. passport, he automatically lost the right. The court said no, he did not. That right was not automatically waived because he says he was a U.S. citizen. He's entitled to dual citizenship. However, he needed to be able, if he had his valid CARICOM passport on him, then there would be no waiver of rights because he would establish his identity otherwise. The issue is, George, whether or not making the CARICOM passport the only document to invoke substantive rights, whether that does not operate harshly. So, for example, let me just give an example. You can recognize a Jamaican from millions of miles. When you're Jamaican, Jamaicans speak in a distinct way that only Jamaicans do. Jamaican accent, you have the Bajan accent, right? So you would tell me a Jamaican or Bajan enters Trinidad and speaking Bajan, speaking Jamaican, have a driver's license, have a voter ID card, and they say, hey, you have not established your Jamaican nationality. No. That is what it comes to. It allows no flexibility in circumstances as that. And our contention is that it takes away a substantive right, because freedom of movement is a substantive right given to CARICOM nationals. So you're driving and you happen to forget your driver's license one day. You're on the road. Police stop you, ask you to produce your license. You don't have it. They tell you, produce it in 48 hours, 72 hours. Come in with it. They don't say, well, listen, it's hey, you don't have it, and therefore, because it's merely a mechanism to establish identity.
All right. Yeah, you know, this is going in a certain direction, but anyhow, I want to make sure I get these people in here first. Margaret says, why does the defendant, in this case, T&T, have to prove the plaintiff's case? Also, does the Treaty of Chaguaramas recognize dual citizenship?
Yes, it does. Dual citizenship is part and parcel of national laws. So Grenada, in other words, there's no precondition that in order for you to be a CARICOM national, you must be of one nationality. So it recognizes that. And the issue here is not establishing the case. Let me put it this way. If David Bain entered Trinidad with a CARICOM passport, then he's automatically entitled to automatic entry and indefinite stay of 6 months. That's the Shanique Mary case. You have your CARICOM passport, so you know sometimes immigration question you and ask you what are you doing, this, that, and they give you 2-3 days, 5 days, depending on what you say. If you are CARICOM national and you enter a fellow CARICOM country, you're entitled to automatic entry 1 or 2, and 2, a stay of up to 6 months. The only exception is that if you are the receiving country believes that you are a charge on the public fund, a potential charge on the public fund, or an undesirable. And the onus then shifts for them to prove that the person is a charge, a potential charge on the public fund, or an undesirable. So, for example, if it was the same Bain who entered there, and they had issues, then they can't just send him back so. Because then he would be entitled to call his attorney, call a consular official, or to call a family member. The case states that you are entitled to due process rights. So in this case, he enters Trinidad. Okay, he has a U.S. passport, and people don't normally travel with 2 passports. They travel with 1 passport, they might leave back the other one, or they might happen to have the other one. And during the course of the engagement, he says, listen, I'm a Grenadian, and I have the driver's license and these other documents. The question is not, and I would readily concede, because he's not traveling on a CARICOM passport, then the onus is on him to prove that he's a Grenadian national, to entitle him to CARICOM nationality rights. And the issue is whether he did so. Trinidad says no, CARICOM says no. We say yes, and the court disagrees with us, says no. So it's not a matter of proving, because he produced these documents to prove. He just didn't have 1 document because it had expired. And we all know it only takes 1 passport to enter a country. You don't need 2 passports to travel.
Margaret says Trinidad is not a part of the OECS, so the Treaty of Basseterre does not apply.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just saying in response to the question as to whether or not a driver's license is recognized as a, you can travel with it, and the answer is yes. I'm not saying Trinidad is a part of the OECS. We all know that. The issue is that within the OECS, and within the OECS, you have 6 independent states that are all part of CARICOM too, and they allow travel on the basis of ID. So the point that is being made is that the ID is not so insignificant as far as its use in international travel is concerned, because it is used within the OECS. And the issue is not whether it is a travel document, because in this case here, the issue is whether or not he produced sufficient identification to establish his CARICOM nationality. That's the question. He was not trying to enter Trinidad using a driver's license. There is a difference. He has a valid passport of another country. The only issue is when CARICOM nationality comes up and he produces documentation to show that he is a Grenadian national, whether or not that is sufficient. That's the only question. It's not that he leave Grenada with a driver's license.
All right, I got some more for you. Ernesto says, Mr. Ferguson, in all honesty, do you think that the rushing of these two cases to the CCJ was to prove a point to Grenadians because of the damaging embarrassment of the failing CCJ votes by Grenadians in the latest referendum?
Well, certainly not. Those are two issues that arose, and many more will arise. And in fact, those two cases are important cases for CARICOM nationals. That is not just a case for the applicants. As I've said many times with the Shanique Myrie case, that's not a case for Shanique Myrie. Shanique Myrie happened to have brought the case. But that case is beneficial to every single CARICOM national because the court in that case outlined the substantive and procedural rights of all CARICOM nationals traveling and their obligations. In that, you are entitled to an automatic right of entry into a fellow CARICOM state once you are a CARICOM national and you stay up to 6 months, save that it is established that you are an undesirable, 1 or 2, you are a potential charge on public funds. These two cases, despite the result, are very important cases for CARICOM nationals now and for the future. And I believe they'll be subject to a lot of academic critiques and so, because they both brought novel points.
Right, hold on a sec here. Kipling says, I am now more confused as to what really is the true meaning of CARICOM. Every law is written with loopholes that can be used based on who you are.
Well, that's the nature of law. It's a matter of interpretation. You can have the same document before you and 15 people give 15 different interpretations to it. And that's what the court is there, ultimately, to determine what is the right interpretation. And what the court says is the interpretation is the interpretation.
You know, I hope you're paying attention. As somebody who was very, very actively promoting the CCJ in the last referendum, I hope you're paying attention to these points here because, for example, Ryan in Orlando says, is Grenada being castigated for the no vote for the CCJ? Look, this may not be the case, Ruggles, okay? But Ruggles, I want you to hear and see for yourself what's going around in social media out there. Because this is not the first time I'm seeing these comments, okay? This is what's out there. And perhaps the CCJ needs to stop and take stock because this could be a blemish on the CCJ. I mean, you and I both know that a lot of people supported the CCJ and wanted to see us accede to the CCJ, but their main concern was the process, okay? Now, these questions are all popping up. And perhaps, Ruggles, it's time to stop and take stock. They may be hogwash, I don't know. But Ruggles, the fact is, those questions are being asked, and the CCJ should not ignore them.
Yes, well, those questions will be raised, I'm sure. I'm not surprised they are raised. I don't believe that it would have anything to do with that. In fact, the bigger issue in matters like these are people's involvement, the group's involvement in the shaping of the CARICOM Treaty and ensuring that heads when they take decisions. Because remember, this is not the CCJ or any court is there to interpret what exists. And based on the decision of the heads over the years, it has been interpreted that what has been laid down is the only proper form of identification of a CARICOM national for the purpose of invoking the treaty is the CARICOM passport. So that comes out of the interpreting the treaty, the decision of heads of government over the years, and that is even CARICOM's interpretation.
But it's happening after the fact, Ruggles. Here's a case where people are only now coming to know it. For example, Margaret says, quite correct, Ruggles, everything is not political. Besides, both cases show that CARICOM nationals can go to the court directly on certain cases. But Fergie, this is, she also says here, I am a nationalist in that respect. If you want to claim CARICOM rights, get a CARICOM passport. This ruling has established what documents are legitimate for claiming those rights. Absolutely, Margaret, after the fact.
Right, yes.
After the fact, Ruggles.
Right, and that's why I say these cases are so important, and it's so important to challenge cases or challenge the system, challenge decisions, bring matters before the court, because that is how you get a true interpretation of the law. It matters not. You know, in fact, I got a mail from one of the leading constitutional attorneys in the region a few days ago. And, you know, he was indicating that he read those two judgments, recent judgments, and was commending us on bringing these matters before the court and contributing so significantly to the development of the jurisprudence and the law. Because if you don't do that, like even just take your national constitutions, for example, you say everyone has a right to freedom of expression. What is freedom of expression? Right? What are the limitations? What are the real situations that may arise that would now determine whether or not this is a breach of your freedom of expression rights or otherwise? Is when you go to the court, it fleshes out many of these issues. So Article 45 of the treaty basically says it's aspirational, that everyone has the right to freedom of movement in essence. What does freedom of movement mean? Does it mean that you could just enter a country just like that? What are the restrictions? And David Bain's case is critical, especially for people in the diaspora. And I say especially because, you know, folks are Grenadians. They may not necessarily bother to get a Grenadian passport or to renew it, because they have a passport. The passport allows them to travel. When they come back to Grenada, there's no hassle. But if you want to invoke freedom of movement rights in CARICOM, in the wider CARICOM, then you need, for the time being, until CARI Pass, or this CARI Pass comes into being with the national ID card and so, you need your CARICOM passport.
All right, Fergie, I'll tell you what. I think we have exhausted this particular case, but please bring this to the attention of CARICOM and the CCJ. I'm not blaming them, but I'm saying that this matter has raised some issues that need to be looked at.
But certainly, and that's why the matter is important. It's not the ultimate result, but it has raised many issues. And it has opened up a lot of debate now among academics, because the different people have different points of view, disagreements, agreements with the judgment.
Margaret says, sounds like sour grapes to me. So a ruling doesn't come in your favor, and so the court is biased. If anything, I blame CARICOM for not clearly articulating what documents are acceptable for conveying these. Margaret, I mean, this is not about being biased. Margaret, you yourself have just said here, if anything, I blame CARICOM for not clearly articulating, and you and I have spoken. That was my issue. Okay, I like to respect judgments coming down from a court, but when this one is so glaringly questionable, I don't see anything biased about that. And there are a lot of people out there who share that view. Search Facebook. You're a big social media fanatic. Search Facebook. This is a failure. And I'm not saying it's a deliberate failure.
No.
Hey,
well, I don't think, I hope Margaret is not referring to me, sour grapes. That's some comment that came before, not me, because it's certainly no sour grapes on I see the positive aspect of the judgment. There are absolutely no regrets that any of these cases were brought, and they are going to contribute significantly to the body of the law and development of an understanding of your rights under your real rights and what are the limitations under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas.
Anyhow, let me thank Margaret. I hope she was not directing that at you, and I doubt whether she was.
So.
But just let me say, Margaret, thank you so much for saying here, and I quote, "If anything, I blame CARICOM for not clearly," so even Margaret is accepting that CARICOM did not clearly articulate what documents, and that, my friend, has been and is my issue. Fergie, let me take a little break here and pay some bills, and we'll come back, because I really want to touch on the other case in Barbados.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
A natural disaster can change your life in minutes. Preparation is the best protection for your family and business. Prepare now. Create a disaster plan and make sure everyone knows what to do. Store water, non-perishable food, and medication. Remember basic emergency supplies such as batteries and flashlights. Trim overhanging trees. If trees near power lines are unsafe to trim, call GRENLEC at 237 for assistance or advice. Install surge protectors to safeguard your electrical devices against outages and intermittent surges. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada.
All right, Fergie, we only have about 8 minutes left, but let's touch on the case, the Gilbert family versus Barbados. One of the things I noticed on social media is that people felt that perhaps the approach taken to the CCJ didn't make sense. They felt it should be, I think you went based on freedom of movement. And there's some who are saying, nah, this was not a matter of freedom of movement. The people they landed in Barbados. But it was a matter about the treatment.
Yeah, okay. All right, let me explain that one, because even the Gilbert's case is even more novel than the David Bain case, because the Gilbert's case represented a first in terms of determining what is meant by freedom of movement within a country. Shanique Marie dealt with freedom of movement at the border. That is the right to enter the country. David Bain case dealt with freedom of movement at the border, which is the right to enter the country. The Gilbert's case dealt with not with entering the country, because they all entered the country, But as the court established in the Shanik Myrie case, freedom of movement embraces the right to enter and the right to move freely within. There are two aspects of the Gilbert's case. One could have gone to Barbados to be dealt with, unlawful detention, action over the treatment with the strip searches and so. And two, which the other route was to go to the CCJ on the freedom of movement point only. Let me make it clear that the Gilberts, the court of preference was the CCJ. Because of the experience, they didn't want to go back to Barbados and pursue this action in Barbados then and even up till now. There are three phases in that action. One was the detention. Two, the strip search. That had nothing to do with the action before the CCJ, freedom of movement. It was related to. But what we went to the CCJ on was the third aspect of it. And that is where, when there were, Tamika Gilbert was about to sign her statement that she gave to the police, there was one sentence in that statement which says, I was subjected to an embarrassing strip search. And the police did not want to, very interestingly so, to have that sentence included in the statement. Now, there are two aspects of that. One, it is true, and two, it is her statement. The police can't determine what goes into her statement. They spent, it came down to this. Either you remove it, or you stay here, or either you leave it, or you stay here, or you remove it, and you sign it and you leave. Your choice. They spent over 2 extra hours in the station arguing about the removal of that single sentence, with Tamika insisting that she wouldn't leave it. So essentially, the CCJ case was based on those relevant facts. We contended that the right of the Gilberts to move freely within Barbados was hindered by the agents of the state, the police officers, who refused to allow them to leave the station unless they subjected themselves to an unlawful condition, which was signing a statement without a sentence that they wished to include. And that's where the freedom of movement point came in. Because if she didn't sign, what it amounted to, the 4 of them would have missed the Liat flight back to Grenada that evening. It would have meant buying 4 new tickets to come to Grenada. And secondly, it would have meant them all overnighting in Barbados. And thirdly, they will all have their commitments in Grenada, work and otherwise, the following day.
All right, thank you for clearing that up, Ruggles. And Margaret says, okay, now I understand the reason for taking the Gilbert case to the CCJ. I was confused about the decision to go there with that case instead of the Barbados court.
Right, so let me even put it so. If that last stage of the experience didn't happen with the statement, then we could not have gone to the CCJ. If it was just the detention and the strip search, we could not have gone to the CCJ with that case.
John Crow Alexander says, how can one get a CARICOM passport?
No, well, it's a Grenadian passport.
Okay, Margaret responds by saying, John, don't know how you apply for a CARICOM passport. Maybe Ruggles can speak to that. But the ruling said either a CARICOM passport or a passport issued by a CARICOM member country. So your Grenada passport...
Right, it's your CARICOM passport. As a matter of fact, if you look at your Grenada passport, now the passports they issue, it has the CARICOM logo on it. I believe there are only 1 or 2 countries within CARICOM, I believe Haiti and Montserrat, where they don't have the CARICOM passports per se.
Almost time to bail, but Kipling Francis says, with Trinidad and Guyana being republics, how does that fit in with CARICOM? Please explain.
It makes no difference. CARICOM is a grouping of mainly independent states. Republicanism is just a form of an independent state. So it makes no difference. They are all bound by a treaty, that's the now revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, where they agree to do things together. They have agreed to CSME, freedom of movement, and they are therefore bound by it. But it makes no difference whether you are Republican or a monarchical system, as some people refer to us. We have the Queen.
Ernesto Jose says, Mr. Ferguson, you were a big advocate for the CCJ during the referendum. And as the first to take these two cases to the CCJ and lose both, what say you now to Grenadians about these failures?
No, well, I don't see it as a failure, first and foremost, as I explained the reason initially. That is all part and parcel of the development of the law. If you don't challenge, then you would get no result. So my position has not changed. My position on the CCJ remains the same. It certainly wouldn't be sour grapes. I can tell you it's all part. If the court feels that that is the interpretation of the law, then I have to respect it. There's no right of appeal from decisions of the CCJ in its original jurisdiction. If there was, then I would certainly advise an appeal.
By the way, speaking about sour grapes, Margaret just cleared this up. She says, no. I'm responding to the comments that suggest that Grenada lost because they didn't vote for CCJ.
Yes.
So it was not
I thought
you
so,
three.
yes.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Okay, Fergie. Boy, I think we covered a lot of mileage here this morning. And I am so glad that we're in agreement that I'm not blaming CARICOM. We're in a learning process, building process, okay? But this is something, if they really have a good heart, pay attention to the concerns being raised out there.
Yes, very important.
Thanks a lot, Fergie. And thank you, Margaret, for agreeing. Okay? Now, folks, where are we? Time to pull the curtain down. So let me take one quick little break here, and then we shall come on back and wrap it up right after this.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Mouth Open Story Jump Out comes to Brooklyn and Washington, D.C., featuring the humor and storytelling of Ricardo Kings Douglas.
They say she comes all the way up here to Toronto to shop for cosmetics and go back down.
Roll back the years in Brooklyn with Lord Nelson. Also in the Brooklyn concert, Quick USA. And in Washington, Diane and Friends and Julian Moore. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th. In Brooklyn at the Tropical Reflection Ballroom on 4501 Glenwood Road from 6 p.m. It's the perfect Father's Day treat. Tickets, $30 in advance. Available at Eventbrite and popular outlets. Or call 347-350-4285 in Brooklyn and 240-460-0442 in Washington, D.C., Maryland. In Brooklyn, special guest, the Mighty Sparrow, will be joined by cultural ambassadors and preservationists to be recognized with New York State proclamations. They include Lord Nelson, Derek Vento, Heron Rockin' J. Douglas, Gentle Benjamin, Lambert, and the Matadors, and the Quick USA Cultural Organization. Additionally, 2 lucky patrons will get to stay free at the award-winning Blue Horizons Garden Resort in Grenada for 3 nights, including breakfast and a dinner at La Belle Creole Restaurant, sponsored by Tropical Reflection Ballroom, Blue Horizon Gardens Resort, The Penny Firm, Caribbean Times Newspaper, Dr. Derek Lezama, Century 21 Achievers Realty, Attorney Glenroy George, The Otley Law Firm, and Funk Media NYC. Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 8th. And Brooklyn, Father's Day. Mouth Open, Story Jump Out.
Alrighty, folks, as we pull the curtain down, just want to remind you folks, the program's going to be up on Facebook in about 5 minutes or so, and later on this afternoon, also up on YouTube. Parting word from the Holy Scriptures, Luke chapter 9, 23 and 24. Then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. but whoever loses their life for me will save it. Luke 9:23 and 24. Georgie Porgy's going to hightail it out of here, folks. Thank you so much for joining me and Ruggles and everybody else this morning. We had a blast. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and every weekday morning this coming week for, hey, wait a minute. When is Corpus Christi? Is it this Thursday? No? Okay. No. I thought I had a holiday on Thursday. Well, I tried. Give me a break. Folks, we'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you. Take care.